Good morning. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Morning Joe with Christina and Brooke. This morning, we're going to be talking about our favorite topic, the F word. And specific F word that we're referring to today is failure and fear and all of those things that have the potential to hold us back if we don't view them in the positive mindset. But before we jump into that, I would love to share a very special viewer with you all this morning. We received this amazing video from last week's winner, Raquel.
Hi, Joe, Christina, and Brooke. Just wanted to show you the stress ball and the 2 hand sanitizers that I received today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Raquel. It was so good to see you. I love seeing our fans live in person on the show. So thanks for being with us this morning. And we're going to have Joe kick off our topic this morning. Tell us about the F word, Joe.
It's great. Of course you come to me, right? The topic is failure. Let's go to Joe. I'm sure Joe's got a lot to say about failure and all. Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate it. Failure is weird, man. Like I was thinking about this so much throughout the week, and failure is one of those things that's like it's so powerful, it's unavoidable. And I think unfortunately for us as human beings, a species, whatever you want to call us, like it's necessary. And it could be like the most cathartic thing for us as human beings. And we've all failed, right? We've all failed in so many different areas. Some of us as early as this morning making breakfast. It's just a part of life, right? But I think what I was thinking about quite a bit over the week is like when we have failure, the emotions that come along with that, like the reaction that we have, it can be, which first of all, the reactions matter, right? They're important. It could be shame, a sense of mourning, confusion, frustration. When we either fail at something or we otherwise just don't quite live up to what we're trying to accomplish, or when we fall short of our expectations for something. And where my mind kept going back to is that the thing that I think to me matters is what we choose to do with those feelings, like how we choose to respond to that, right? Like we can get into a headspace where we just totally ignore it. Like we fail at something and we don't think about it anymore. And we don't address it. We don't go back to it. We just ignore it and pretend it's not there. I think we could also fall into the trap of letting it create a new negative narrative in my mind. Like I failed because I'm a failure. I failed because this isn't my thing. I'm no good at this. Or we can use it as a guide. It can serve as the thing. And this is where like that cathartic part comes in, that necessary, that important part comes in, like where we can use it as the push, as the guide to helping us improve in that thing that we failed in and in helping us gain success. And when I was thinking about what the difference is between those three, like, all right, so I failed at something, I could just ignore it. I can let it create a narrative in my mind of like, well, I failed because I'm a failure. Or no, I'm going to use this failure to drive to the next success, which we all have examples of. We've all heard of like Edison and Lincoln, who failed at a gazillion things before they eventually found success.
And Elon Musk failed 3 times, even after finding success, right?
And some would say he's even failing now, right? Like,
right.
So what's the difference? And the thing that I kept going back to, and Christina, this is your baby, the concept of mindset. That the difference in the person who just says, you know what, this hurts so much, I'm in so much pain, I feel so much shame, I'm just going to set it aside and ignore it, versus the person who says, man, I failed because I'm a failure, and that's, I guess, who I'm just going to be, and that's my lot in life, versus the person who's like, no, this is just a step in eventually getting to being successful in whatever it is I'm trying to do. It's the mindset. It's how it is that we choose to approach and think about those failures and the emotions that come along with those failures. And that was mind-blowing to me, right? That it's not DNA, it's not genetics, it's not talent, it's the mindset that we have in response to that. And as we experience that failure, which was insane to me, and it was very empowering to think that anybody who's listening to this, anybody who's experienced failure, like how we respond to that, it's really up to us. And we have the capacity to fall into any one of those things, into one of those areas.
Absolutely.
If that kind of makes any sense.
Yeah, it's
Sometimes they don't.
it's total mindset. I've had tons of failures this week and 2 weeks prior to it. But I would like to talk for a second about parenting, if that's okay. So for the viewers, I have a boyfriend and he has 2 kids and they're wonderful, wonderful boys. And the last couple of times that we've had them, I just have noticed a shift in the way that they're responding to me. And so we have 50-50 custody. So this is the week that we have on. So I started thinking, what is it? Why are they being this way? Why are they not acting how they were in the beginning? Why aren't they being loving, blah, blah, blah. And I went into this internal thing like, oh, it's never going to be this, it's never going to be that. But then did some thinking about it. I was like, I need to change. I need to do something differently. And my boyfriend Gabe and I, in the beginning of the week, just literally spent more quality time with them, did tons of activities, and now they're saying I love you, they're sending text messages, can't wait to see you, can we play Uno, can we play hide and go seek, can we do this? And it has been a complete 180 this week. And just that small shift in the what am I doing differently now from when we first started.
And think about that split, right? Think about that split in terms of what is versus what could have been were it not for the mindset, were it not for the change in mindset. Like, imagine if you go down that trail of, okay, so let's say I would have never had the mindset. We would have never talked about it, never made time. So now we see that the path you're on is like, it's loving and they're texting and they're wanting more time. What would the not that have looked like? And how much worse does that path, how much worse would that path have gotten the further down you travel?
So much worse. And what was happening was that, like, I was veering off. I was just doing my own thing. I'm like, well, they don't want to hang out with me. But really, it was me. You're right. So sometimes we just need to stop and think.
Yeah.
And I'm just blown away by the dynamic, like the dynamic of the future, and how like those paths, they just get wider and wider the further down the road you get. So just like how you were able to avoid something monstrous weeks and months and years, decades down the road by just that one little switch, right? That little mindset shift, which is amazing and empowering and crazy to think about. What were you going to say, Christine? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, gosh, I have so much to say. Brooke, you're amazing. That's not easy to do, to stand back and say, wow, like, what is it that I can do to change and to shift the dynamic that's happening here? Because you're right, that's all you can control. You can't control their reactions. You can only control what you put out there. And the fact that you chose to put out opportunities to build connection with them is, as Joe was saying, going to take you so far. And it's going to be a long, hard road of lots of connection building as you go through that journey and process. But wow, like how powerful that you recognized and you were like, oh, it feels different. And it was probably, if I'm guessing, that, well, yeah, or the sense of like, okay, this was fun in the beginning. It was that honeymoon phase. And then, okay, so like the new normal, right? So what does that mean for our family? Does that mean she's taking our dad away from us? Where do we fit in? And so you're creating a trajectory that says you fit in as a cohesive unit, as a family together, as opposed to it's me with your dad and you guys are just kind of in the sidelines. That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and it's funny because as a parent coach myself, you know, I'm always telling parents that the best present they can give their kids is time and you. Mm-hmm. And to take your own advice to that. It's like, do as I say, not what I do, you know?
So hard. I can manage 100 families all the time. Their kids, no problem. My own, I'm like, oh, I've got one, she owns me. How do I do this? I don't know
15
what to do.
minutes. Just 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
big difference.
So,
And I think that's a great opportunity, right? Like not just for us here in real time as we're, live on Facebook, but for anybody who ends up watching this or anybody who's watching it now, like the idea of we might still very much be in a phase with some of these failures where it's not something that we have to learn from, that we could do something right now. Like we can very much be in the middle of a situation where, wait, if I just shift my mind about this, if I can just have more of a growth mindset, if I could look at this a little bit differently, I can change the texture and the dynamic and the reality of what it is that I'm experiencing right now. So I think it's easy when it comes to failures to think of it in like the longer view, like, man, that mistake I made 5 years ago or 10 years ago, but it could be something right now that might not quite be going as the way that we planned or as well as we thought, an area where we're not quite living up to where we'd like to. Well, right now in real time, how is it that we can internalize that, look at ourselves and say, what can I be doing different? How is this on me? And how can I grow from this so that the next time isn't as bad, or that it's better, or that it's full success, whatever those kind of small measures of improvement we're looking for.
And a lot
absolutely.
of
And
times the story, sorry, Brooke, the story that you
No.
tell in your head is so much worse
oh,
than reality. So much, we can build things up and mean
Oh my
all like, oh, it was a
goodness.
sign, and then this collected, and then this, and oh my gosh, the whole world is crashing down on me. But it's like, hold on a second, let's look at the facts.
what actually happened?
Yeah, right. What actually happened? And okay, how can I lean into that and make an impact to get it to go in the direction that I'm looking for it to go?
Yeah. And I think that it's so important, going back to both of you, just the reflection piece. Like, we are so, as a society, wake up, get right into our daily thing, whether it be work or parenting or whatever, and not really giving that time to ourselves to say, okay, what do I want to change? How did the day go? Let's evaluate it. Every day should be like that. Was it a good day? What can I do differently? Joe, you raised your hand.
I was like, I'm not cutting these women off again. I'm just gonna sit here, I'm gonna raise my hand. I'm gonna be a good little boy. Yep,
It's the only way he gets a word in.
that's it.
Yes, Joe.
I man, just something hit me in terms of like combining what you guys just said. I think when I consider mindset, one of the things that feeds into that the most is the narrative, the internal narrative of my brain, the story that I'm telling myself, or my brain's telling me, wherever you think that happens. But that story, and how that story can so easily get out of control if I'm not making time, to Brooke's point, if I'm not making time from day to day and week to week to be mindful of what that narrative is, to be mindful of crafting that story in my brain. Because if I just let it go, if I'm not mindful of it, it's almost like exercise. If I'm not specifically and purposely trying to make time to exercise, and I'm just like, oh, I'll get to it whenever I think of it, I'm never going to think of it. There's 1,000 things that we're trying to do. I think the same thing happens with our minds, and that story that we tell ourselves, if we're not mindful to check in on a daily, on a weekly, whatever that time frame might be for us, if we're not checking in, that narrative, we can lose control of it. And that's what I think for me is at the heart of our mindset, is that narrative, is what you're telling yourself about yourself. And
also what you tell others, the language that you use to talk about it, and what you put out into the universe. Like, oh, to use Brooke as an example, not that this is true, but we have a terrible relationship. The boys don't like me. They're withdrawing. And the more you say it, the more it perpetuates it, and it becomes reality, right? So you have to shift action, and also language. The story you tell yourself and the story you tell others and what you do, they all have to match.
And you know what? And sometimes just also, like, if you can't get yourself out of it, if you can answer the questions that you need to answer to get yourself out of it, speak to like-minded people. Speak to people who are of that growth mindset, not the complainers, not the, oh, I feel bad for you, woe is you. Like, no, okay, let's brainstorm. What can we do differently? All right. Thanks for keeping us on track, Joe.
Always.
I've got a very minor role here. I just want to play it well.
Stop. Raise hands.
I raise my hand. I contribute time. We're good. That's it. I'm done for my
Remember,
Sunday.
Joe, like how you tell the story really matters.
It really does. It really does.
You have major
Aw.
impact. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us, and Brooke for sharing and being so vulnerable and sharing that very real failure. Next
you.
time, maybe we can come back and share some more failures. Isn't that fun?
Yes, yes. Maybe some of our viewers can actually share some of their failures too, if they feel comfortable on our page. And then we can talk about, you know, the story that they created, what actually happened, and if they overcame that.
I love that. A really good, real quick, I know Joe's keeping us to our time commitment. I appreciate you, Joe. A good resource for this, Loving What Is, the book, Loving What Is. So good. It really helped me shift my mind when I was opening a school, and failure was every time I opened the door. Failures with staffing, failures with buildings, failure everywhere, right? But it wasn't all the external things. It was coming right from me. And when I read, oh, he's so cute, Loving What Is, it changed my life.
This is
So good.
Riker.
Oh my gosh,
She's saying hi.
hi. Aw, I'm so glad you're here. Happy Sunday.
He did camp with me this week, origami.
How was it? Oh, see, he loved it.
Okay, I'll take care of it.
Oh, it's so good. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here on Morning Joe with Christina and Brooke. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, everyone.